Hi, everyone. It's Laura and Brooke here for our Legal Talk Tuesdays. Thanks so much for joining us today. We skipped last week, needed a little self-care time, had busy weeks, both of us. So, excuse me. So we appreciate you joining us again today on May 7th. We are starting May. So it's a new month. Just like every year, I feel like things go by really fast and it's kind of crazy that it's already May of 2019, but here we are, it's May of 2019. And because it's a new month and we want to talk about something that's kind of coming up and that we deal with a lot at our law firm, and want to just talk with you guys about something that sometimes sucks. So I'm going to use that word a little bit today. And I apologize for the use of the word suck, but sometimes things just suck in the law. Statistics are one of those things. Sometimes statistics are, terrible. They're, it's not great to learn this information, but one thing that they are is true. So statistics are true. It's, it's studied, it's math, it's, all that kind of fun stuff. But one of those, kind of sucky statistics is that June is one of the highest months of the year for divorces in the United States. There are a lot of reasons for that, but just know that we're kind of coming up to June, which is one of the biggest months of the year for people to file for divorce. And when you are filing for divorce, obviously a lot of things have happened before you make that step. And we want to talk to you about some things related to children. If you have children and you're contemplating, you're thinking about, excuse me, you're thinking about, or you are, at that stage where you're going to file for divorce, we want to talk to you about the top 3 things today that the top 3 things that your kids wish that you would keep in mind when you're separating from your spouse. It's one of those things that when you have children, you have to keep them in mind all the time, and especially, in my opinion, at the forefront, at the front of your mind when you're dealing with your spouse in a situation where you're getting divorced.
Right. And so the first of those things is to be nice, which is very difficult because when you're going through a divorce or when you've divorced, regardless of whether you have kids, the emotions are really high and it's a stressful time. And obviously there's some hurt on both sides. And even though, there's no doubt, this is not questioning, your judgment or your, ability to care for your children. But, we're human. And so sometimes we kind of get in the moment, get reactive, get defensive, and we say mean about the other parent, either directly to that parent or, in front of your children. So that is really damaging. And if you could just be intentional, take a breath, take a minute, have those conversations in private, because the kids need to know during this time as much as possible that even though their world is changing and there's going to be a new normal, that both of the parents still love them. It's nothing that they have done, and that they're going to be there and they're going to cooperate, and that they're putting that child and that child's happiness in mind. Because even if you think that you have arguing, but they're upstairs, they may not, they may hear you, and kids tend to be sponges and they don't understand some of these adult emotions or their own emotions. And so you want to be really cognizant of and aware of what you're, saying and what you're doing, even when your kids are, possibly in earshot. So be nice to each other as much as possible. Try to keep things away from the kids so that way they feel safe and they feel secure during this transition.
Exactly. And just to add to the be nice, it's even more important that after you are divorced and you live in separate households, that you don't talk bad about the other parent in front of or to your child, because that's their parent and they don't need to know about, all the things that you think are wrong with your ex. So don't talk bad about your ex in front of or around your children. That goes along with the be nice as well. The second thing we're going to talk about that your children wish that you would keep in mind, and I'm a divorced parent-child, however you say that. I'm a child of divorced parents. So I come at this from experience. But the second thing that we're going to talk about is money. Your kids don't need to know about anything related to your financial situation. Obviously, they're going to be aware if you don't have money for fancy clothes and things like that, but you don't have to tell them why. Don't talk about your financial troubles, your money troubles with your children. If you were fighting with your ex or your soon-to-be ex about child support, who's going to pay for those extracurricular activities like baseball, dance, who's going to pay for lunches at school, don't let the children know. It kind of goes along with be nice, but don't let the children know that you're fighting about or that you're having trouble with money. If they know, like Brooke said, children are sponges. And whether you think they are or whether you think they fully understand, they're sponges. And if they know that you're having money problems or that you're fighting with their other parent about money, then they're going to be stressed out. I think right now we live in a world where children are more stressed than they've ever been. And some of that has to do with, devices and social media and things like that. But parents don't necessarily help with that situation. If you're constantly talking about how you can't afford something, it's going to stress them out. And the world is stressful enough without you adding to it. They're kids, let them be kids for as long as possible. They're going to have to worry about finances on their own at some point in the future. But if you talk about money and how that you don't have any too much, all they can do is worry. They can't really go get a job if they're 7 or 12 or whatever it might be. So why add worry to their plate?
Right. And along with that, don't make your kids the go-between. They don't need to be your messenger for money. So you don't need to put that responsibility on your children, whether it's, during the divorce, after the divorce. Oh, your dad owes me this money. So, go tell him when you're there, or, I'm not going to do this because of that. So just keep that in mind. Don't use your kids as a tool for that, even though you may not directly want to interact with your spouse. And you feel like that might be an effective way. They're just not emotionally mature enough to handle that. The third thing is don't alienate the other parent. Now, obviously, I'll put in the disclaimer, there are situations, and typically if this is a court matter, the court is going to, in a divorce, they're going to see some of these issues and maybe limit contact. So we understand there are certain issues where it is not in the best interest of your child to be around your spouse, whether it's, abuse, drug use, things like that. We understand that, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about in a normal divorce situation where, you don't get along, and you may not, a big issue is co-parenting in marriages, in divorce. It's difficult. It's difficult to raise kids. You may have different ideas of what that looks like. So you may think, well, we probably do. I think, hey, my way is the best way, and we all do that. But you have to be able to be a little bit flexible there and not alienate the other parent. And a lot of people don't really understand when you say alienate, it's kind of a big word, what that means. When you're co-parenting, and during and after your divorce, actually, it's a really big deal. So what it essentially is when you are blocking your child from having any kind of meaningful relationship with the other parent. So you don't want to keep, children from their other parent. Sometimes people ask us, hey, they are behind, whatever amount in child support, and use the kids kind of as well, if you want to see your child, then you're going to have to catch up on support. And we completely understand how frustrating that is. It's expensive to raise children. And if you're the primary caregiver and you've been awarded child support, you really do need that to care for your children. And that's an extra burden and stress on you. So we understand that stress, but you cannot keep your child from seeing that parent just because they're not fulfilling what they've been ordered to do. There's a means through the court to handle that, but you can't just on your own withhold, visitation or communication just because they aren't paying child support. Another thing too, we can't really dictate who, dictate to an extent who is around our children, but your spouse will likely move on and, may have a boyfriend or girlfriend, that you don't agree with. Or you don't like. And, it's a very realistic possibility. And if there is a really solid reason, again, abuse, drug use, things like that, of course there's concern. Of course there's things you can do about it. But if you just don't like that person, you really can't dictate that. You maybe can say, in your divorce, you can't have visitors overnight of the opposite sex unless you're married. And that's very common. That happens a lot. But beyond that, you really can't dictate and tell them what the relationship can look like outside of the divorce. But yeah, so don't keep them from the other parent. And also, if they're not living up to their end of what they were ordered to do in your divorce with child support, you can't keep your child from them. Or even if they're not showing up for visits, you'll want to go back to the court and have the court reconsider what it had ruled previously.
Yeah. So just to kind of sum up a little bit what we talked about, your kids are the most important part to, keep them healthy during your divorce. Their world is changing. It's going to change automatically because you're separating from your spouse, but it doesn't have to be as scary if you try to keep in the front of your brain how important their happiness and their mental health and their understanding is of the situation. So your kids are not getting divorced, you are. They're not making the choices that you're making, you are making those choices. So don't make them be adults before they have to be. 3 big things that we talked about: be nice to your spouse and about your ex or your current spouse in front of the children. Don't talk about money to your children. Don't alienate your kids. You can't keep them from the other person just because you don't like them or they cheated on you or whatever it might be. And just to add a little personal note on this, I kind of said I am a divorced parent child. My parents got divorced when I was 7. There were 3 children that my parents had during that time. We were all under the age of 10. My parents did it really, really well. My mom moved us to another state. I never knew anything about visitation issues or child support fights or anything like that. My dad even told me when I was older that he sat his family, his parents and his sister down and said, if I ever hear you say a negative word about their mom, you will never see these children again. So he set that groundwork kind of from the get-go. You cannot talk bad about their mom, their, our marriage, whatever like that, because they're the most important people. And that means something. I learned that as an adult, but because he did that, I never knew about issues or whatever happened when I was a kid.
So we are here, that's it today, but we are here every Tuesday at 11:30 for Legal Talk Tuesday. Kind of a difficult subject, and we do understand frustrations, but we kind of wanted to share some of the common things that we see with our clients and some of the issues that come about when you're talking about children in divorce. But hope to see you next week here again, 11:30. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.